I remember some of the things too, because when my wife talks, I listen. You do not applaud. The bar is the floor. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, what is good? Thank you so much for coming out to the show. I'm very excited to be here in Milwaukee. I've been in Milwaukee twice in my life. Once for the show last year, and once for the show this year. It's pretty good. I'm very excited to be here in this wonderful town. I've had a little bit more time to explore, and I will have more time to explore it tomorrow because I learned how your Amtrak schedule and everything works this time. So I don't have to take a 12-hour bus tomorrow morning to Minneapolis. So I'm excited to take in more of the sights and sounds. I've really just kind of taken in the food so far in Milwaukee. And let me tell you, you guys are doing it pretty good. It's really some good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, we have a very juicy chapter of Percy Jackson and the Olympians to discuss tonight. And I think we should just get right into it, but can't discuss this alone. Need to have a guest and someone who is very excited to cover these chapters. So please welcome to the stage our guest for this show, someone who's been on the show before and someone that I lived in the same dorm building with at college for 4 years. Please give it up for Michael Hollis. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
It's been seconds since I've last seen you.
Yeah. I love when my accomplishments and qualifications are that I used to live with you.
Hey, well, not
I'll take it.
I wouldn't call it a
Does
qualification.
that count as nepotism?
No, I hope not. But I would just say it's a clarification of how I know you, and potentially people can ask you embarrassing stories about me, because I'm sure they're infinite. But we are not here to discuss those. We are here to discuss Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Now, when I was scheduling out this leg of the tour, I knew that it was going to be end of book 5-ish stuff. I did get to learn the hard/fun way that this is not a 20-chapter book. It is a 23-ish, I'm not exactly sure yet, chapter book. But I was very interested when I texted you about this. I had posted the screenshot of what chapters are going to be covered. And Sequoia, who did chapter 19, was like, yes, chapter 19, let's go. Michael, on the flip side, you texted me and you said, oh, good. I read chapter 19, didn't have a lot of thoughts. Had way more to say about chapters 20 through 22. Then I read chapter 19, you know, the one where Luke dies. Didn't have much thought.
I think like no thoughts, just vibes. It's like so much is happening, like an action scene. It's like, yeah, and then all the action happened. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. That is valid. I will give it to you. And I think it did make sense given that when you first were on the show, it was for a chapter that you called Years in Advance, which was the Calypso chapter, which is the saddest chapter in the series. So when you were excited, I was like, ooh, are these going to be heart-wrenching? We will just have to see, though. Now, before we get into chapter 20, this is your second time on the show, so we'll ask you the second guest question, which is, what cabin would you be sorted into? Who do you think your godly parent would be? Have you ever done one of those sorting type quizzes? What's your situation?
Yeah, if we're going based on like actual skills that I would have gotten, probably like Athena or something, just like generic wisdom kind of stuff. But if we're going based on like vibes or how I would like actually answer the quiz where you can like kind of pick which one you want.
Yeah, the Reed Riordan one is pretty easy. What is your favorite color?
It's always been Poseidon.
Yeah. Just ocean vibes.
Yeah, you know, Hades' a video game. He's the most fun.
He is very fun in Hades, the video game. Big fan of that. And we cannot discuss it further. Otherwise, we won't cover any of this chapter. We're going to get into We'll get Q&A, Ask Me Hades, in the video games questions. Then it's an excuse for me to talk about it. But we're going to be talking chapter 20, which is called We Win Fabulous Prizes. Now, where we last left our heroes, quite a bit happened. Luke died, yada, yada, yada. And real big important thing, Annabeth told him, you're like a brother to me. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's so funny. It's so funny. So then the gods all busted in, thought there was going to be a fight, saw the scene, and then Percy said that we need a shroud for the son of Hermes. So that's where we're picking things up. Now, I always try to guess what happens in these chapters before I read them. So for We Win Fabulous Prizes, it just felt like it might have been tongue-in-cheek. Like, it just felt like saying We Win Fabulous Prizes was Percy kind of being a little snarky. So I thought maybe the gods were going to just give them strange gifts that they didn't actually like. And that's exactly the opposite of what happens. They all get exactly what they've always wanted forever.
Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's Uncle Rick will get me sometimes when it's just does what it says on the tin. I'm always thinking, but what if it's not what it says on the tin? The other thing that had me tripped up is that this is chapter 20. So we've got chapter 20, 21, 22, and 23 left, to my knowledge. I think that's how many chapters are. Don't tell me otherwise. I don't want to know. Spoilers, blah, blah, blah. But I don't feel at ease with there being 4 chapters left because I don't trust, given his track record, I don't trust that Percy Jackson can have 4 consecutive chapters where good things happen to him. I just don't see there being a world with 4 chapters of, yay, we did it. I just don't see that in the cards. But obviously, we can't really talk about it unless there's a non-spoilery way for you to reply.
I'd say, like, not to say what does or doesn't happen, but just a reminder, like, this isn't just the resolution of this book. This is the falling action of the entire Percy Jackson series.
Yeah.
You know, at that point.
Right.
So, yeah, there is a lot more to, like, resolve.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm still really worried. I'm not
But-
resting easy. So now we have the chapter beginning. And
Wait.
Okay.
One more thing.
Yes.
You wanted me to remind you one more piece of embarrassment for Luke.
Okay. Yes. Please. I was
was-
giddy when you told me that there was one other thing I didn't make fun of Luke for. We will always have time for dunking on Luke.
And it's real subtle, and it only like caught it because I read chapter 20 and like then went back and looked.
Mm-hmm.
When Percy is first dunking in the sticks, spoilers for chapter 5, he says when he picks the spot on his back that it's like well protected, he says that it just felt right. And it's a lot more dignified than something like my armpit.
It's pretty good. It is pretty good. That's Luke's spot. I didn't catch that at all, but that's a fun, if you had reread, fun little nugget. So thank you for catching that. Percy, way more dignified and thematic to pick the small of the back. Come on.
Okay, actual chapter 20.
Actual chapter 20 begins with the 3 fates taking Luke's body. And Percy has not seen them since the yarn snipping from earlier in the series. When Percy looks at one, he sees his life flash before his eyes in a second. And it does include him growing old, becoming an old man, and then dying. So I feel like that's a huge win for Percy Jackson, where the average life expectancy of a demigod is like 15. That's pretty good. Like, I think that's a big win. Like, oh, cool, you make it to old man face. That's good. You didn't die from a monster attack or something.
That's a great point because it's presented as like super scary and ominous when like, you know, your life flashes before your eyes. But the fact that like before this point, he would never have like had a concept of you know, living past 16.
Yeah. I think it's a great positive note for him, but he is spooked by it. The fate then says, "It is done," and holds up the same yarn that Percy saw when he was 12. Now, at the time, he thought that this yarn was about his life, but what he now realizes is that it was Luke's, and this fate was showing Percy that a life would have to be sacrificed in order to right the ship. How Percy could have picked up on that? No way. Impossible to know, so don't kick yourself, Percy Jackson. They gather up Luke's body. It is wrapped in a shroud, and they begin to carry it out of the throne room. But then Hermes says, "Wait," and he approaches. George and Martha say, "Luke, poor Luke." And then Hermes unwraps Luke's face so that he can kiss his forehead and give a final blessing in ancient Greek. And he then whispers farewell and allows the fates to take the body away. Now, because Hermes, we know, is being cast as Lin-Manuel Miranda, I imagine, or I wonder, if when he pulls the shroud away, he will go, "Look at my son." Didn't even take notes on that. That was on the spot, baby.
This is supposed to be like a really emotional beat that you just
Yeah, but it's Luke. I don't care.
every step.
So here's something that's getting confusing for me. Percy starts to think about the great prophecy. And the first thing that he starts to think of with the prophecy is the whole hero's soul line. Obviously, Luke is the hero. Percy makes that super clear in case anyone missed it, even though that kind of was the overall thesis of chapter 19. But then he goes on to the cursed blade line, and he says that the cursed blade, which we're now learning is the dagger, is cursed because Luke broke his promise and betrayed his friends? That's what makes the dagger cursed? I don't know. That feels like a big technicality, and it just feels like you would need a yoga mat for that stretch because it doesn't feel like Luke was kind of a jerk. Now the blade is cursed. I don't know. It just felt like cheating to me.
Did you have an idea of what the blade could have been besides that?
My thought was that it was going to be either the scythe or when it became the poorly named sword, some sort of evil sword, whatever Kronos was using. And I was thinking that because Percy was wondering, is it actually Riptide? Because people said that Riptide caused harm in the past, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking, no, I thought Luke was going to self-sacrifice using the scythe or backbiter to be instead of doing it with the dagger. So that was what I was thinking. I really just don't feel like Luke being a jerk results in blade I gave to Annabeth a bunch of years ago is now cursed. I don't know.
Yeah, it's, if nothing else, an intentional misdirect because, you think Reaping, Grim Reaper with the scythe.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh, yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Oracle, boo.
That's the whole thing with prophecy is we're tempted to be mad at Rick for how he wrote the prophecy, but that's what prophecies are. They're tricksy and, not quite what you think they are.
Yeah, I guess I just like it when it's a little more tricksy and it's, I guess, more clear what the potentials are. Like when it says the hero, it's like, okay, probably a pretty good 50-50 shot that it's going to be Luke or Percy. That makes more sense. I just feel like you're never going to guess that it was cursed blade. Like there was no worrying about the dagger. Yes, we learned the backstory of it coming from Luke and being gifted to Annabeth, but I don't feel like at any point was oh yeah, this thing is definitely cursed. Especially when we've seen other things that Luke has given to people be cursed, like the winged shoes, for sure cursed. Those are cursed shoes. That's 1,000% true. But the dagger itself doesn't seem cursed. It's like Luke is. I don't know. It just felt like a little too stretchy, getting fast and loose with the transitive property. Anyway.
I agree. While we're being nitpicky.
Yeah, let's do it.
Which we shouldn't be too much longer. I think the line that I had trouble with was, a single choice shall end his days, Olympus to preserve or raise. A lot of people made decisions, at least 3 in that room on that day. Annabeth had to decide to step in. Mm-hmm. Percy had to decide to give him the dagger or not. Luke had to decide to actually use the dagger.
That is true. Yeah. Percy quantifies it as his choice to give him the blade. And I guess if you are going super nitpicky with the words, by saying a single choice and not saying his single choice makes it clear it was someone else. But you're right, Annabeth also did make a choice. So maybe it's trying to say an external choice from Percy Jackson who goes, here, please take the dagger and don't kill me. Maybe that is the choice they're referring to. But yeah, I can also see. Here in Linguistics Corner with Mike and Michael. Now, Olympus to preserve or raise, pretty self-explanatory. Percy then thinks to Luke's trip to the river Styx, and Percy feels like Luke also must have seen something that tethered him to reality, and he bets that it was also Annabeth. And he would surmise that the vision that Luke saw was what Hestia showed Percy, Annabeth, Thalia, and Luke having a good time after promising that they would be a new family for each other. Percy thinks that hurting Annabeth in battle is what shocked Luke into remembering his promise, allowing his mortal conscience to resume control and to conquer Kronos. Annabeth's knees then buckle and she begins to fall. Percy catches her, but ever the smooth person that Percy Jackson is, he does catch her by her freshly broken arm. Not the greatest move.
Thankfully, she might not remember since she passes out instantly.
She does take it like a champ. She basically is in pain, screams in pain. Percy apologizes for causing this pain. She forgives him and then instantly passes out. Percy cries out for help. Apollo approaches and offers to heal her. And he then says an incantation, which causes her bruise to fade, her cuts and scars to disappear, and her broken arm to straighten into place. Apollo relays that in a few minutes, she'll be good to go, and that will give him just enough time to craft a poem about today's events entitled Apollo and His Friends Save Olympus. Percy thanks him and then says, I'll let you handle the poetry. Have at it, bud. Percy remembers his promise to Sally and asks Zeus to change the color of the Empire State Building, which he does with a snap. And Percy thinks that most mortals will have to wonder what it means, but Sally will know. And you can look up online why the Empire State Building is a color that it is for a particular night. They got a whole calendar, but I don't know when they started doing that. So I'd have to fact check with vaguely 2010s or so.
Yeah, like if it happened now, it could just like be an accident that it just happened to be blue.
Yeah.
It's a Tuesday.
It is blue quite often, and when I lived in Midtown and I could see the Empire State Building from my kitchen, I would quite often Google, be like, why is it this color today? And you get some funky stuff and some weird things. They would celebrate the birthdays of different members of Sesame Street. It's a fun time. The gods quickly fix the damages in the palace. Grover and Percy care for the wounded, and once the bridge is remade, they greet their friends that survived. And now I'm getting really worried that we're going to have to part with beloved characters that we've loved the whole time, like Jake Mason and Katie Gardner. Ugh. While I was writing Katie Gardner's name, I was even like, that's her name, right? That's how invested I am in Katie Gardner. Now, apparently the Cyclopes rescued Thalia, and she's doing all right. She just needs to use crutches to get around. The Stolls have just minor injuries, and they promise that they didn't do too much looting throughout Manhattan. They do end up living up to their cabin name, though, because they start relaying a bunch of messages. They say that Paul and Sally are okay, but they're not allowed up on Olympus because they are just mortals. They say that Mrs. O'Leary dug out Chiron and brought him to camp, but they do seem a bit worried about Chiron, so I guess that is going to be filed away in things that might happen in the next chapter. Make sure Chiron's okay. They say that Katie Gardner told them, so she's alive. Whew, don't want another Lee Fletcher on our hands. Katie,
never forget.
Never forget our good pal who was mentioned 4 times. They say that Katie told them she saw Rachel Elizabeth Dare leave the Empire State Building at the end of the battle, and it looked like she was unharmed. The only problem is no one knows where she went. So we'll have to resolve that in chapter 22, I guess.
Any guesses on what's up with her?
I feel like Hestia probably told her the situation. I feel like my prediction of she's going to be the better version of what May was supposed to be. Like, I think she will become the new embodiment of the Oracle, or at least something in that space. I don't know if it will be literally that or kind of like taking the place of it, but I feel like, we don't have an Oracle anymore. Hey, we have this person that we care about who can kind of see the future and stuff, and she is a love interest for Percy. We got to get her out of there without killing her. Oh, what if we just removed her from contention? So that's what I think is going to happen. Trapdoor intact. So they don't know where Rachel Elizabeth Dare went. She seems to be okay. Nico then arrives and he receives a hero's welcome, which I think is fantastic. He is trailed by Hades, who is making a trip to Olympus outside of his regulated winter solstice visitation session. The gods then clap him on the back and he is floored. Percy can tell that he is very pleasantly surprised by this reaction, which I think is great. I like Hades being more in the fold. And Clarice then walks in, and Ares bellows, "There's my girl," which is very cute. I like them having a better relationship. That makes me very happy, though I am still a little bit upset about Clarice's character arc and lack thereof development in it.
I still don't understand it either.
Yeah, she just feels like she was a fun character and then just turned into a plot point to facilitate Selena being the spy, and it just stinks.
You were telling me that I had assumed that it was like the same chariot as in the Demigod Files.
No. Yeah, I think it's just
two unrelated chariots.
I think it's just a different chariot.
We have no backstory for why she's upset.
No, just apparently, which has also not been told to us, the Ares cabin has been, stamped on time and time again repeatedly. But as you pointed out when we were talking about this, pretty weird for the war cabin to not want to get in the mix of the war.
Yeah.
Very strange. Very strange. Not my favorite thing. One of my few gripes with this otherwise fantastic book. Ares calls Clarice the best warrior he's ever seen, and he compliments on her Draken slaying. So this is very nice. I like them being more on the same page. Hera and Hephaestus pass Percy, and though Hephaestus is a bit perturbed by Percy sitting on his throne, he says that Percy did a great job for the most part. The closest Hera gets to a compliment, though, is saying that she won't have to destroy Percy and Annabeth anymore. Whew. Yay! Thanks, Hera. Cool. Percy retorts to Hera that Annabeth saved Olympus by motivating Luke to stop Kronos, and Hera simply replies, and leaves in a huff. She stinks. I don't like her. Dionysus, whose head is still bandaged, says, well, Percy Jackson. He calls him Percy Jackson. Really good. That was huge. Is that the first time he's called him by name properly?
I assume so.
I think he might have said it correctly at the very end of like their first feel-good moment in book 3. Like maybe one time, and Percy's like, you said my name properly. But I was very pleasantly surprised, and it just shows their friendship growth. Opposite end of the spectrum of the Clarice thing. This growth between Percy and Dionysus is just perfectly executed. It makes me so happy. So happy. So he says, well, Percy Jackson, I see Pollux made it through, so I suppose you aren't completely inept. It's all thanks to my training, I suppose. Yeah, you did it, Mr. D. Percy says, yes, sir. Perfect response. And Dionysus explains that Zeus had trimmed the remainder of his probation sentence. He now only has 50 years left instead of the original 100 that was remaining. Percy then thinks about what it will be like to deal with Dionysus until he becomes an old man, if he even makes it that far. But Dionysus cautions him to not get too excited, though, because he still plans to make his life miserable. And no, you won't, Dionysus. You love Percy Jackson. You just called him by his actual name. Come on. You love him. He's your favorite camper.
Yeah, I don't know if he likes any of the campers, but it's safe to say.
Percy's at least not tied for last place. It could be Percy, everybody else. I feel like Grover's below everyone else, though. I feel like Mr. T does not like him. As sweet as Grover is, he's just always playing the damn reed pipes. Percy is unable to fight back a smile and replies naturally. And this is just, it's just so good. Their friendship is so good. And I don't know how things are going to work out in the Heroes of Olympus series, but I would love to have them continue to have some back and forth because it's just so fantastic. Grover is by Percy's side, and occasionally he breaks down in tears over how many nature spirits lost their lives, and that's gotta be tough, especially given his newfound position of trying to rally all the troops, and Pan is gone. It's a tough situation for him to be in regardless, but like especially with what he's dealing with, I can't imagine it. I don't envy him. Percy consoles him, telling him that he did a great job and that they will bounce back, because they will start planting trees and fixing up parks, and they will help the spirits become reincarnated into a better world. And I think that's really nice. I think that's cool, and especially in this fun climate time we're in where everything is 1,000,000 degrees and the world is actively on fire all the time, I like this sentiment quite a bit.
Plant some trees, folks.
Plant some trees. I want to be doing some planting of trees things. It's something that I want to do with the Noose Olympian in the future. I didn't have like a charitable effort with it set up like I had with Potterless. And I want to do something. I think I'm going to do a thing where like every time I do one of those breaks, like every other month, I will like highlight a different charity and then donate funds either from Patreon or ad money or something to a charity. And I feel like I could even like cycle it where you could do like a Percy Annabeth Grover thing where like one is like Ocean Conservancy and then one is like something about like housing and then one is something about like saving the forest or something. I think that could be a cool thing to do. So
yeah, I dig it.
I want to make that happen. You don't have to clap for me. It's fine. Thank you for your applause. Look at me. I just think it's cool, and I like was waiting for the right thing for something to make sense, and I had been thinking about this, but after reading this chapter, it feels like, yeah, let's do it. Let's kick that into gear. So I'll try to make that a thing, at least by the time this episode comes out, which will give me a couple months head start. Grover's not as hopeful as Percy, though. He wants to be, but he just feels like it was so hard to rally these spirits for the fight, and then also to try to get them to listen to him about Pan. He just worries that they may not want to listen to him again since he effectively led them into slaughter. It's a good point by Grover. I can't really fault him for thinking this, but I trust his ability to bring them around. I think he's genuine, and I feel like they will give him the benefit of the doubt. I've got hope in Grover.
I was kind of wondering, like, what is the difference between Grover's situation with the nature spirits and Percy's situation with all of the campers.
Oh,
You
interesting.
know, I don't know if the numbers are the same and like way more of the nature spirits died than campers did, but
Yeah, I'm not sure because we don't have the exact stats, but I think it is an interesting parallel that I didn't see. Grover's going to have to convince the spirits that things are going to be okay. And then Percy will have to do the same for the gods. I feel like Grover has a tougher task, though, because at least with Percy, he can kind of come back and be like, hey, spoiler alert for the end of this chapter. He can kind of come down and be like, hey, I figured it all out. We'll be good. Trust me. Whereas Grover's like, I hope we can save the planet. Like, Percy is just kind of fighting against just the gods, and he kind of solved it.
That's
Grover
true.
has to fight against Mr. Dare and every other person that Captain Planet fought against. Like, he's going to have to deal with lots of contributing factors to climate change. I think there's a bit of a higher bar for Grover.
yeah, that's fair. The campers already like had a like mission statement, and like that's why the camp is there for them to like fight together versus
Right.
the nature spirits. It's, you know, hard to get nature to cooperate on anything. So
Yeah. So power to Grover. Get Grover more help. He needs teammates. So Percy assures Grover that they will listen to him because he cares, and he cares about them, and he cares about the wild more than anyone. Grover tries to muster up a smile. He thanks Percy, and he tells Percy that he hopes he knows he's really proud to be his friend. It's so sweet. I legitimately choked up when I was reading this chapter. Not exaggerating, super sweet moment, adorable. Love the friendship. Percy pats Grover on the arm and says that Luke was right about one thing. G-Man is the bravest saver that he's ever met. And this is funny, but I do think this is also legitimately huge coming from Percy Jackson. Because if we know anything about Percy Jackson, he hates Luke and everything that Luke stands for. And I feel like Percy would be the kind of guy to hate something just because Luke liked it. Like they're somehow talking about their favorite flavor of ice cream, and they're talking about chocolate, something that pretty much everyone likes, and Percy would go, no, chocolate stinks, I hate chocolate, just because Luke likes it. So for Percy to willingly agree with Luke, pretty big compliment, Grover. You should kind of take that and be like, wow, he really likes me. Grover does blush, so maybe he is on the same page as me. And then conch horns blow, and in struts the army of Poseidon. Tyson, of course, immediately yells, Percy, and runs in for a hug. Narrator Percy letting us know that he has shrunk down back to normal size. I was confused reading the last chapter because they were like, oh, by the way, Tyson's 30 feet tall now.
yeah,
and I
think
was
it's that
like,
magically.
okay,
Yeah, he magically grew.
okay. I didn't know if he just had very quick puberty and a very intense short growth spurt. I don't know the biology of Cyclopes. I'll have to ask Dr. Moy about how that works, but I was wondering, is he just 30 feet tall now?
Do you think it's more or less traumatic to do all of puberty in like a day instead of 5 or 10 years?
Oh, man. I don't know. I guess probably less traumatic, but more painful. Because during my growth spurt, like my bones just hurt.
Please tell us more about your puberty.
My bones hurt. I went through lots of acne. I am still going through it because I'm 31 and I still have acne. That's super fun to deal with. To have to keep going to the dermatologist and be like, hello, in for my 20th year of meetings. But yeah, I mean, I think there's less trauma and awkwardness, but I feel like a lot of pain to grow that much so quickly. But he is back down to normal size. And Percy about this says that the hug now feels like, quote, getting hit by a tractor, not the entire farm, which is phenomenal phrasing. Tyson says, you're not dead. And Percy responds, yeah, amazing, huh?
Who'd have thought?
I love that back and forth.
No one
It's
had
so good.
Percy surviving on their bingo card.
I mean, no joke. Multiple people earlier in the book were like, please don't die, Percy. I want to see you later. Then Tyson says, I am not dead either. Yay! We
Yay!
chained Typhon. It was fun. So good. So good. I'm very excited for the representation of Tyson in the TV series because that's just got to be a great acting gig. For whoever gets it, it's like you are just a ball of joy in every scene. And then occasionally you get to do big punches. What a great role. Dream role. Joyful and punching. Now, in the background, 50 Cyclopes nod in approval, laugh, and high-five each other. I like the Cyclopes being just a bunch of fun-loving dudes. This makes me really happy. One commends Tyson for his fearless leadership. Another calls him the bravest of the Cyclopes. Tyson blushes, and he says that it was nothing, but Percy won't stand for this self-deprecation, and says to Tyson that he was incredible, and he saw it with his own eyes. Grover fights back some nerves because he is terrified of Cyclopes. He fights back the nerves and calls for 3 cheers for Tyson. And then immediately afterwards, he mutters, "Please don't eat me." Conch horns blast again, and Poseidon walks in, congratulating Tyson and telling Percy that he's so proud that he will even forgive him for sitting on his throne. And these gods and their dang thrones, if you're so particular about people not sitting in them, maybe don't leave them unguarded in the palace? It feels like an easy solution. Oh, I don't want anyone sitting in my chair. Should we lock the door? No. Should we stay back and have someone protect them? No. Everyone's so mad about the chairs. I don't think they should keep bringing it up. Percy saved the world. Who cares if I sat in your chair? The lightning bolts from your Hephaestus chair destroyed Kronos, basically. Come on. At least get like a little reserved sign to put in your throne so no one sits in it. Sorry, the seat's taken.
They were a little busy.
I know, but what do you expect? They're comfy chairs. People are going to sit in them. They're big. Poseidon gives Percy a hug. And then Percy realizes that this has never happened before. He has never hugged his dad, Poseidon. And he describes his dad as being warm, like a regular person, and smelling of the ocean, like a not regular person. Poseidon smiles at Percy as he pulls away, and Percy tears up a bit. And as narrator Percy, he reflects that until that moment, he hadn't allowed himself to recognize how scared he was over these past couple of days. So it was kind of just like a rush of emotion all at once sort of thing, which completely makes sense. I get that, when I do these shows, like adrenaline's going, everything's fun, everything's cool. I'm like backstage packing things up. And then eventually it's like, oh my God, take me home, Kelly, please. Hopefully I'll have that in our hotel room in undisclosed location so that you don't have to, carry me home.
Yeah, this part hit me really hard. Just the him taking a second to be a scared child.
Yeah.
Is something he's not been afforded, his whole life.
Mm-hmm. This is something that I have talked about on the show before, but I feel like every now and then, maybe like every 5 pages, when they say something about Percy, they could say, Percy Jackson, who was 15. Because just the constant fact that you have to remember, oh, right, he's a teenager. Like, the biggest decisions I was making at 15 was, oh, no, did I say something awkward in class? And, he's like, oh, no, am I going to have to save the world and stuff? It's just such different stakes. Really a lot to put on him. So, yeah, for him to just be a kid makes sense. And Poseidon can kind of see what he's going through. Percy started to say something, but Poseidon shushes him and says that no hero is above fear and that he has risen above every hero. He starts to say that not even Hercules, but then a voice booms, Poseidon, because the only thing Zeus ever pays attention to is if people are talking smack about him and / or his children. So, of course, it's Zeus. Zeus has taken his throne, and everyone else then takes their seats. Zeus calls for Poseidon to join as well. Hades sits in a stone guest seat. I like that they have guest chairs in the palace. He takes a stone guest seat. I'm imagining it's still like one of those classic folding chairs, but just made of stone and really big.
Of course.
So he is sitting in this. And then even cuter than that, Nico D'Angelo is sitting crisscross applesauce by his feet.
Can you even? So this is why I like this chapter. I mean, there's so many, every character's, in this scene. So there's so many just throwaway lines that just melt my heart,
Yeah.
Nico sitting cross-legged in front of his dad's feet. Yeah. Zeus, give us a second.
It is very cute, especially knowing the struggle that Nico has gone through. He's wanted the approval. Hades kind of tricked him. And there was a lot that has led up to this moment. So it is really, really sweet. I hope we get some more Nico action in the next chapter, or at least one of the future chapters, because he was here the whole time, but he didn't really do too much. So I would love a Nico conversation. Zeus asks Poseidon if he will join them on the council or if he's being too proud. Poseidon winks at Percy and tells Zeus that he would be honored. Classic dad move. Just such a dad, Poseidon, to do the whole I guess I should get going, son. It's so good. It's so good. So he ends up taking the seat, and narrator Percy about this says, I guess miracles do happen. While Zeus is waxing poetic about the bravery of the gods and all these sorts of things, Annabeth enters and asks Percy if she missed anything good. He lets her know that no one is planning to destroy them yet, and she says, first time today, which is very, very, very funny.
This is my second favorite thing about this
chapter. Okay, cool, yeah.
Is just like how dismissed Zeus is. Like, in what other story is like the king of the gods giving a speech, and you just like kind of yada yada. Like,
yeah, the yada yada.
No one
over
cares
the
what he's
speech.
actually saying.
Yeah, narrator Percy yada yada is over him, and as we'll see later in the chapter, Percy just kind of talks over him, which is really intense. So yeah, he really does become kind of the doormat of this chapter. So Annabeth says, first time today. Percy laughs out loud at this. He's cackling, and Grover has to nudge him to be silent because Hera shoots him a dirty look. The team then hears Zeus struggle to find the words for it, but he does eventually thank Hades for his help. And then Hades looks a bit smug, but Percy feels like Hades has earned this. And Nico looks happier than Percy has ever seen him. So sweet, so sweet. Zeus then struggles to thank Poseidon. Poseidon, just really playing this up, asks Zeus to repeat what he said, like, oh, sorry, what was that? And Zeus snarls that they must thank Poseidon because it would have been difficult. And Poseidon goes, difficult? And then Zeus corrects himself to impossible to defeat Typhon. And the gods all agree. Zeus proceeds to the final thank yous, the ones for the demigods. He asks Thalia to step forward, and he promises to help her flesh out the hunters' currently depleted roster. Artemis commends Thalia on a job well done and tells her not to fret about the hunters who lost their lives, as they will achieve Elysium. And while she says this, she shoots a look at Hades to make sure
they will achieve Elysium.
And Hades shrugs and says, probably, but then she holds the stare because she's not going to back down. And then Hades does give in, saying that he will expedite their applications. And this is my favorite thing. It was one of my favorite things about Hades, the video game, and I really like this. Hades just being a grumpy paperwork, mid-level, mid-tier regional manager makes me so happy.
It's so great.
It's so funny. And I don't know if this finds its way into a lot of other stories, or if it's just like the two things that I know the most in terms of stories, Hades the video game and now this, have it. But I think it's just such a fun twist, because when I first got into Hades the video game, I had seen Hades Town and obviously Disney's Hercules. So I was like, okay, Hades, big, scary, evil. But then when you play Hades the video game, he's like, oh gosh, these quarterly reports, our numbers are down. Like it's such a good twist. I absolutely love it.
I think even like Disney's Hercules, Hades, like complains like, so hard to find good help these days, or, about how hard it is to be a boss.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's very fun. So he's going to fast track their applications. Zeus calls for Tyson to step up.
Wait, Thalia says thank you to Artemis and not Zeus.
Oh, I didn't notice that. And Zeus is her dad. Ugh. Wow. Yeah, that is tricky. If you are the child of a different god and then you become a hunter, do you have more allegiance to Artemis or your godly parent? Or does it just depend on how good your godly parent is?
I mean, yeah, especially when your dad is Zeus.
Yeah, that's a bit easier. But what if there was, I don't know, Poseidon seems pretty chill for the most part. What if there was a child of Poseidon that joins the hunters? It'd be interesting. Could be the plot of a future book. Hit me up, Rick Riordan. So that's interesting. I'm really glad you picked up on that. So she only thanks Artemis. Zeus calls for Tyson to step forward, and Zeus appoints Tyson as a general in the armies of Olympus. That is his thank you for his efforts. He will lead the Cyclopes whenever the gods need their help. He does say like something along the lines of whenever the gods demand, so it does feel a little bit like he's at their beck and call, but still a pretty sweet gig to have.
Yeah, a lot of these like glorious gifts or whatever the title was, or just jobs. Like, here's some work that you get to do for us.
But it's a cool job. Yeah. Nah. Maybe they have good benefits? I don't know. So in addition to this, here comes the cool benefit package. In addition, he says, and you shall have a new, what kind of weapon would you like? A sword? An axe? And Tyson very excitedly replies, a stick! And he shows Zeus his broken club, and Zeus promises to give him the best stick that can be found. Tyson yells, hooray! And the rest of
So say we all.
And the rest of the Cyclopes are also hyped. Just, man, there's a lot of really good Tyson chapters, but this is a top tier Tyson chapter. It's so fun. Dionysus calls for Grover to approach, and he very half-heartedly proclaims him a member of the Council of the Cloven Elders. Grover collapses instantly because this is such a great honor, and immediately Dionysus goes, oh, wonderful. And then instructs someone to tell Grover when he wakes up that he won't be an outcast and all the nature spirits will treat him as a lord of the wild. And then the spirits drag Grover away as he moans, food, which is me every morning after I wake up. Narrator Percy says, quote, I figured he'd be okay. He would wake up as a lord of the wild with a bunch of beautiful naiads taking care of him. Life could be worse. So Athena then calls for Annabeth, who squeezes Percy's arm and then approaches. Good sign for Persebeth. She says to Annabeth that she exceeded all of their expectations and made her very proud. She states that Kronos did a whole lot of destruction, so Annabeth will be in charge of making the most of this situation and overseeing the designs of improvements that can be made since they're starting from scratch. This is the great opportunity to, okay, this is all destroyed, let's kind of build it and build it better, make it as good as it can be. Now, you very smartly, when I was FaceTiming Kelly before the show, asked Kelly, hey, you're an architect. What would you do? Do you want to relay some of the things Kelly said to us since you got the scoop?
Yeah, I definitely know architecture and remember everything that she said.
I remember some of the things too, because when my wife talks, I listen.
Good
You
on
do
you.
not apply. It's the bar is the floor.
Yeah, when we talked to Kelly about just redesigning Olympus, what she would do, she kind of talked about a mix of styles where maybe you remake the same like form of a column but use glass or like something modern, or
Right.
maybe like a more modern style using like the granite that you would find in a column.
Yeah, kind of flipping it to where you've got the old school designs, different materials. And then she also said having some elements that kind of combine both. So maybe it has some more modern shapes and you kind of get a little mix of the two. So I think that would be pretty cool. I think maybe Disney should consult Kelly about how to do the design for the show. Come on, it could be really good. So Annabeth is shocked, absolutely floored when she hears this. And then
And this is also a job, but like, you know, one that is actually like a big honor.
yeah, this is truly Annabeth, since we knew what her big dream was. She's been saying this is what she wants to do, like remake it all in her image. Now, she didn't clarify, I would love for Olympus to get completely destroyed so that I can do this, but she's not going to argue, you know, it's not the journey, it's the destination. Let me rebuild Olympus. So she has been actively wanting this the whole time. So true dream job situation. Annabeth, being so shocked, causes Athena to give a bit of a cheeky smile and then says, you are an architect, are you not? And I mean, like, she is not. Like, she has not gone to school.
Right.
She
there are,
doesn't
like,
have a Bachelor of Arts.
steps to like declare yourself an architect.
Right. She doesn't have a Bachelor of Architecture. She doesn't have her architecture license. Like, there's many steps.
I guess maybe like a laptop from Daedalus kind of like qualifies as some of that.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, just because you're good at math and science, you're not like, you are a physicist, aren't you? It's like, no, I just, you know, have some physics books that I've read. I don't know, like, it's not the same. So I like, she is not, but she's getting there. She likes it, but
Probably still one of the most educated of the demigods.
certainly, but she is a bit young and could probably serve to go to a bit of schooling. Annabeth asks if she really can design it any way that she wants. Athena says yes, but then every god demands that statues of them be included in the design. So they kind of have to shush all of them and push that aside. Annabeth walks back, still in utter disbelief. Percy smiles and congratulates her by saying, way to go! And Annabeth's mind is already racing with ideas. So she is ready to take on this new task. It is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
It's super cute. Poseidon then shouts, Percy's name in all caps, and everyone goes silent. And much like Tupac, all eyes are on Percy. Okay, I did not think that was going to necessarily go well. I was like, nerdy crowd, do they know what rap is? Whoa. Nice, good, we did it. Hestia is back in girl form, and she gives a reassuring smile. Zeus informs Percy that he will receive one gift from the gods. Percy checks that he really means any gift, and Zeus thinks that he knows where Percy is headed, and confirms that they can make him a god and serve as Poseidon's lieutenant for all of eternity. Percy hesitates. Zeus says if the whole council is on board, they can make it happen. Ares likes the sound of Percy becoming a god because it does mean that he could beat him up until the end of time. Athena even approves, but she is staring at Annabeth when she does so, and Percy looks back as well. And Annabeth is intentionally avoiding eye contact with Percy. Her face is pale, and he thinks back to when he thought that she was going to become a hunter. He was panicking that he would lose her, and now she has the same look on her face.
Okay, so there's a lot in this book that like is similar to or like maybe even inspired by Disney's Hercules. It's inevitable. It's the same source material. This is the same scene, right?
I haven't seen it in quite some time, so please refresh me and everyone.
You have the hero in front of the gods being offered immortality and declines. Spoilers for 3 lines later. But I don't mind. I think it's like different enough that it doesn't feel cheap or a copy. That it's this kind of like archetypal situation of being offered something that nobody would think you would decline.
Right.
But finding a higher purpose.
Yeah, I will talk in the mythology episode with Dr. Moya or Red. I'll have to ask if it is a common theme or if it is just this sort of thing that when we have these more modern adaptations, we think of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they turned it down? And
because love.
Yeah, or because like everyone else has hubris. What if this person didn't? So Percy then thinks back to his life flashing before his eyes earlier with the Fates, and he thinks, I could avoid death with this move. I could be at his peak forever and have powerful, everlasting life. And who wouldn't want that?
Would we call 16 years old your peak?
I wasn't thinking that would be the peak.
Is that top condition?
I don't think that it is. Maybe it just is to Percy because he doesn't have the expectation of making it past 16. So he's figuring like, well, I've made it this far and I don't know that I'll make it any farther. So let's just kind of like bank in. Like, what was that game where it was the stern British woman and everyone was asking you questions and you could put money in the bank? The weakest link. Thank you. So yeah, it's like the weakest link where you're like, I'm doing pretty good. Let's put it in the bank. I've hit 16. I don't want to push it. And then like, oh no, a statue of Hera's fallen on me. And then game over.
But also, he did just see like how sexy he'll look at 20 and 25. And so maybe there's a little of that going on.
That is true. So he's thinking, who wouldn't want that? But then he looks at Annabeth and he thinks of his friends at camp. Charles Beckendorf. Michael Yu? Second billing Michael Yu, who was introduced in this book and wasn't that cool the whole time.
Hey, he did a lot on that bridge.
Yeah,
He was an MVP there.
Michael Yu? Then Selena Beauregard, who I'm still mad at, gets third billing, and then he says, and others who have passed. Lee Fletcher slander just to get thrown into the mix with everybody else.
Would you rather they kill off someone more notable?
I guess the thought, I was just surprised.
Because not killing people was not an option here.
Yeah, I guess I was just surprised that like Clarice didn't make it into this list, but I guess they aren't like truly friends because they didn't finish the arc that was set up. But
well, she's still alive.
Yeah, he's only thinking of the dead ones.
Yeah.
I forgot that Michael Yu died. That's how much I care about Michael Yu. Okay. Then I guess if we're just going with the dead ones, then yeah, the bar is pretty low because you've got Beckendorf, objectively fantastic. Selena, not good. Lee Fletcher, who cares? And then Michael Yu did some good stuff on the bridge. So yeah, it's one of those like second place because everyone beefed it. Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, he's not going to say Luke in his list of friends.
Or Ethan. Yeah, not going to say them. So that kind of makes sense. Yeah, okay. So he thinks of all the others who have passed as well. He does end up thinking of Ethan and Luke. And in that moment, he knows what to do. And what does he do? We'll find out after intermission. Oh! So, if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, we're going to do the mid-roll break, the Cashed Olympian. So let's all say goodbye to the podcast people. Goodbye! Hello and welcome to the Cashed Olympian. So glad you are here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around for the mid-roll break. Got some updates, not too many, so we'll keep this relatively brief. Just reminders that we do have the new merchandise. We've got the Camp Regular Person shirts. We've got the Pro Pigeon podcast pins and other stuff all available at thenewsolympian.com/merch. We've got the Texas live shows coming up in December. Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. Those are at thenewsolympian.com/live. And also, when we get to the ad portion, we've got some new sponsors coming up in the mix. Ones that are going to be read by me, not that locally inserted stuff. So we've got some new things coming to close out the end of the year, some things that I think you might enjoy. So stick around for the ad portion stuff. But before we get into that, I want to thank the folks who are supporting directly on Patreon. Thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate it. I've been uploading director's commentaries about the live shows that you've been hearing in these episodes. And also, I just put up a bonus episode of that talk I gave at a library in New Jersey, where I talked about the benefits of reading young adult books as an old adult. So those are available depending on your tier over at thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. But I want to give a shout out to 50 more of the folks who've joined recently. So shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Alexis, Madison, Bridget, Kerry Clark, Winona Anderson, Jack Miller, Ashley O'Donnell, Harriet Gemmel, Tessa Gray, McKay Campbell, Liz Artenstars, Allison Nicolosi, Nobody, Wenig Stens Nich Letster, Noel, Schneifi und Amobe, August D. Stan, Megan Krajewski, Kelsey Vlezian, and Ellen DeMarco. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Bex214, Fanny Doct, Brooklyn Wasden, Emily Maltby, Grace Cademan, Casper, Martin Wallaker, Alexis Maybe, Julia Petri Juarez, Yereni Aguilera, Shelby C., Molo, Ren, Danae, but not the Greek mythological princess, Kelly Griffiths, Tim Ebeno, Jody, Lexi Monceau, Alicia, Sana, Down with the Rickness, Wafer, Annabeth H., Michelle Shunkin, Newly, Michelle Wang, Issa Snow, Tara Lewis, Abigail Ryan, Dano, and Angiska S. And also name corrections for Reka Verish and Cage Eversole. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hephaestus bless you that anytime you're on an airplane or a train and they have one of those tray tables from the seat in front of you, that it's not wonky, that it is perfectly aligned and not slanted to any side. If you're all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for some new podcasts to listen to, I am an independent podcast boy who makes a good number of shows that I think you might enjoy. One of those is Potterless, especially if you've been enjoying these live show episodes. You would enjoy the recent live show episodes of Potterless. About once a month, once every other month, I post stuff to the Potterless feed, even though that show is not weekly anymore. And they are from past live shows, and those are very improv heavy, whether that's me and Johnny doing brackets to determine the best something in the wizarding world, or me and Kelly putting Harry Potter characters through the gauntlet of things such as The Bachelor or Big Brother. There's all sorts of fun stuff there over on the Potterless feed. You can search for Potterless wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go to our website, potterlesspodcast.com. And before we wrap up here, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as our new sponsors, which will be coming up in this episode. Uncommon Goods is one of them if you're looking for Christmas gifts and stuff. Some of the ads won't be read by me, though. Those are inserted locally. So if you live in Wisconsin, don't be surprised if you hear an ad for cheese curds. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of The News Olympian. This episode of The News Olympian is brought to you by Uncommon Goods. In this chapter, we have our characters receiving gifts from the gods, and some of them are pretty solid, and it's what people wanted, and some of them are a bit interesting, but if you want to give the perfect gift this gift-giving season, what could you use? You could use Uncommon Goods. Uncommon Goods is here to make your holiday shopping stress-free by scouring the globe for the most remarkable and truly unique gifts for everyone on your list. Whether you're getting a gift for a family member or a friend, they've got such a wide variety of gifts, from kitchen things to stuff for your home to customizable items. I actually got 2 items recently that I will be giving to people at Christmas. If you are my parents or Kelly's aunt, please skip ahead so we don't spoil it here. But I got my mom and dad this really
pretty ornament based on a trip that we took together recently. And then we got Kelly's aunt a mug based on the college that she went to. It has this really cute design. So you can get all sorts of things at Uncommon Goods. And when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you are supporting artists and small independent businesses. They are often handmade. They're often made in the US. And Uncommon Goods has the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts that you can find anywhere. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/TNO. That's uncommongoods.com/TNO for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. So if you want to give the perfect gift, whether you are a god or not, check out Uncommon Goods today.
Hope everyone had a good intermission. I miss you all so dearly. Applause for being reunited. Now, let's get into the remainder of this chapter, which is very interesting and very intense. So, what did he? The big old cliffhanger. What was Percy going to do? Who wouldn't want this? Michael Yu. We remembered he died. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. So, Percy, in that moment, thinking of Ethan and Luke, knows exactly what to do. He turns down the offer, and Zeus is absolutely stunned and offended. Percy clarifies that he's honored to be given this opportunity and that someone would think that he would pick to be a god and have eternal life and all that kind of stuff. But he says, I've got a lot of life left to live. I'd hate to peak in my sophomore year. So you absolutely nailed it. It would be weird to peak in your sophomore year of high school. I'm very thankful for one of my teachers in high school, Mr. Wardwell, who at some point, Mr. Wardwell, are you in the crowd? Mr. Wardwell at one point said this to me. It was, I think, my freshman or sophomore year, so it was at a nice formative moment. He was like, you should all not want to peak in high school. Why would you ever want, for the idiom of, oh, high school is the best 4 years of your life, like, why would you want that to be true? You can't do anything in high school. You probably haven't met the love of your life yet. Like, you haven't seen the world. Why would the best 4 years of your life be when you have homework every night and pimples all over your face and your parents tell you what to do all the time? Like, that shouldn't be it. You should strive to enjoy life later in life. And I really appreciate Mr. Wardwell for telling me that, because that was definitely a thing I heard. So shout out to Percy for being on the same page as Mr. Wardwell, the real hero of the story. Now, the gods are glaring at Percy Jackson. Annabeth's hands are covering her mouth and her eyes are shining. And narrator Percy says, and that kind of made up for it. So good, so good. Did shining just mean like she was really happy, or is it shining because there's like tears in her eyes? I was curious as exactly what that phrase was referring to.
I'd say both.
Okay, cool. Win-win.
She was clearly worried, you know, a second ago that
Right.
he was going to accept it, so.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So Percy says that he has a different gift in mind and asks if he can still have whatever he wants. And Zeus says if it's within their power, then yes. Percy says that it's possible, but he wants them to promise on the river Styx first.
Finally.
Yes. Yes. Percy did learn
Learned
this
his
lesson. Well, he had done this one time previously, right? I think he made, was it the Antaeus thing? I feel like there was one other time where he made people swear on the river Styx. Nico didn't remember this,
Yeah,
though.
that's right.
Nico dropped the ball in this
Percy learned
book.
it in the last book.
Yeah.
Nico did not.
Right. So thankfully, Percy is sticking with this. Dionysus, offended that Percy doesn't trust them. But yeah, correct.
The least trustworthy among them.
Correct response. I'm also glad. That is one of my favorite things about you. The Michael Hollis singular, like, ha laugh is always one of my favorite things. I'm so glad we got one unprompted. Now, very funny for anyone to say it, but specifically Dionysus. Percy looks at Hades and says, someone once told me you should always get a solemn oath. Got him! Which is good, because Hades didn't do this in like a nice way. Like, he did this in a middle finger to you way. So for Percy to throw this back at him is great. And then Hades takes it like a champ, just shrugs and says, guilty. Jason Mantzoukas is such good casting for Mr. D in this scene, and whoever they get for Hades in this scene too. I don't know. They casted the guy, and I wasn't familiar with his work, but like I'm just not well versed in like different actors and stuff. I trust that the two of them in this. It's just I'm really excited. I really like it. I'm really looking forward to the show. Zeus agrees to do it and swears on the river Styx that they will grant any reasonable, in italics, so you know he means it, reasonable request within their power. Percy wants them to properly recognize the children of the gods. All of the children of all of the gods. And this is him fulfilling the promise to Luke. Makes sense. It's a thing that has been brought up throughout the series, feels pretty big. And in terms of within their power, when Percy said it was within their power, I was wondering, okay, what exactly is it going to be? This was the classic, like, I was so excited to read this, I wasn't trying to guess sort of thing. But it's super doable because...
Yeah, that's a real low bar.
Yeah, he really just is saying, please be nice to people. And it's so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy to be nice. It's really not that hard. All you got to do is just like let people do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody. It's super chill. So I do like that. It's very much within their power.
Some of them have so many kids.
That has been brought upon by them. Oh no, it's the consequences of my own actions. Percy wants them all to properly recognize the children of the gods. All of the children of all the gods. And the gods then squirm awkwardly in their seats when they hear this. Poseidon asks what he means. Percy explains that Kronos wouldn't have risen to power if not for demigods who felt abandoned by their parents. He says that these demigods were angry, they were resentful, and they felt unloved for a reason. And yeah, he's absolutely nailed it here. That's exactly what's going on. Everyone doesn't really seem to agree with that sentiment. Later, we get Athena agreeing with it, which is good because it is the truth. But I think Percy's got really sound reasoning. I like that this was his wish. It is way better than living forever and being a god and having to deal with the gods. So I think this is a pretty good call from Percy Jackson.
He would have been a really cool god, though.
Yeah.
What do you think he would have been the god of?
Well, they said that he would have been a minor god and that he would have been a lieutenant to Poseidon. So I guess he would have had to be a subset. No, he'd be the god of Pegasi because horses are under Poseidon.
Isn't that Pegasus?
Well, no, I mean, like,
the god of Pegasus?
Well, is Pegasus a god or is he just like the coolest Pegasus?
I don't know, maybe.
Well, it's like, you're all Pegasi, but I'm Pegasus with a capital P. Like,
I feel like it has to be something new. You know, like Dionysus was like the god of wine, which I guess was new-ish relative to like water.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe like the god of like quips or basketball or...
Hey, I'll take either of those. That'd be pretty good. I was also thinking when you were saying it had to be something new, I was like, does it have to be a new water thing? Like, does Percy have to become the god of slip and slides or like a more modern water? I guess
Boogie boards.
Yeah. He has to become the god of White Claw hard seltzer, like some water-based thing that's new. Yeah, he's the god of LaCroix. Like, I got to make all these new flavors. And, yeah, that'd be interesting. There are a lot of different possibilities. But yeah, I think rather than being a minor god, I think what he's asking for here is cool. And then he doesn't have to live forever. And also he can date Annabeth, which is super cool and sweet. So Zeus is offended. Lots of gods being offended in this chapter. Percy just talks straight over him. Very cool. Zeus tries to push against this and Percy just keeps going. He says that there cannot be any more undetermined kids. He wants everyone to claim all of their children by the time they turn 13. I thought that was an interesting pick for 13 because didn't Percy and a lot of the other campers have to deal with fending off monsters earlier than age 13?
Yeah, wasn't he like 11 in book 1?
Yeah, I feel like he was younger, and then we obviously have the family of Thalia and Luke and Annabeth all being younger than 13. So I'm wondering what the reasoning behind 13 is other than you are now a teenager instead of a preteen.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense as like a hard deadline that like most of the demigods will be more susceptible to monster attacks versus like Percy was one of the big three, so maybe he, got more attention younger, but like definitely by 13 kind of thing.
Okay.
And where like, you don't want to rip them out, like if they're like safe at home with their earthly parent, they can chill a little bit longer.
Yeah, because that is the Hogwarts problem where they're like, hey, you're a wizard, tell all your friends goodbye. You'll never see them again, and you can't talk about most of your life anymore. But yeah, I guess maybe there could be even a thing where at a certain age, maybe you will know that you are a demigod and it will be like, hey, this is why these bad things are happening to you. You are a demigod. You'll figure out what type later, but for now, let's get you safe. So it could be, it's like when you declare a major in college and you don't have to declare it right away. That was what was nice about where we went to school. And that was a big appeal of me going there was that you didn't have to declare until after your sophomore year, whereas some other schools you had to like declare right off the bat. I'm like, I'm 18. How am I supposed to pick my life? What's this?
I wasn't any better at it at 21 when we graduated.
Yeah, how many did you end up, not to put you on blast, you can just say no comment. Did you change your major multiple times?
Changed a lot, ended up with theater and linguistics. So
Yeah, theater kids in the
shout
crowd.
out to those majors.
So I found 13 a little bit interesting. I wonder if it will be expounded upon more in the sequel series. I don't know where the sequel series takes place. I don't know if we're being in Camp Half-Blood or somewhere else. But I love getting into the nitty-gritty of stuff, so I would love if this kind of gets expounded upon and they have more of like a legitimate process of things that they all go through. So I think it's very interesting. So he says that 13 is when they have to know who their godly parent is. Narrator Percy then says this. Now, wait just a moment, Apollo said, but I was on a roll. And I really enjoy Percy basically being on the receiving end of the Woody Kingdom Hearts meme of, hold on, let him cook. Percy continues that the minor gods, Nemesis, Hecate, Morpheus, Janus, and is it Hebe? Hebe? H-E-B-E?
Yeah, I think Hebe.
Hebe? Okay. Do we know what Hebe's deal is?
I do not.
Well, you know who does? Dr. Moya in the future. So, these minor gods all deserve amnesty and a place at Camp Half-Blood. I agree with a place at Camp Half-Blood. I feel like Morpheus should be put into timeout for a little bit, right? Maybe just
I mean, that didn't go so well for him last time he was put in timeout.
maybe just like at least a stern talking to, something. He was causing a whole bunch of chaos and such. But Percy thinks that they should get amnesty and a place at Camp Half-Blood. He also thinks that Calypso and other peaceful Titan-like folk should be pardoned as well. So I think that totally makes sense. That's super valid. I think that's a good thing for him to ask for. Percy starts to move on to Hades, and Hades is aghast that Percy is considering that he is a minor god. He gets very offended. Percy very quickly clarifies so that he doesn't get yeeted into dust.
Listen, dude. Can you follow the plot, please?
Let
I'm
me
trying
finish.
to help you out.
Let me finish my sentence. So Percy very quickly clarifies that he is not saying that, but what he was going to say is that Hades' kids shouldn't be left out, and they deserve a cabin as well. And I'm very excited about this. I've really been championing for the Hades cabin to exist the whole time. It could have such cool vibes. It could just be a haunted house. It could be a spooky castle. It could have a moat and a drawbridge. It could be really fun. I think there's loads of opportunities.
Devil's advocate, no pun intended, to the Hades cabin. But like, do we need like a whole structure for every god, regardless if they like have more than one child?
It is a bit excessive. What would you say? Just like a big, like one big building for everyone, and they just have rooms within it and such?
I mean, I guess that's what they're complaining against, but maybe it's just because like the Hermes cabin is overcrowded. But like,
Yeah.
do we need like huge cabin that's just Percy and sometimes Tyson?
Yeah.
Right next to one that's just Nico. Next to like Talia, who definitely doesn't live there.
I guess the thought is maybe now that won't be the case, because as Percy continues, he's saying Hades' kids shouldn't be left out. Nico D'Angelo is proof of this. Percy says that there will be no more unclaimed kids in the Hermes cabin, and there should be no more pact of the big three. It didn't work anyway, and the whole practice of trying to remove powerful demigods is bad. Rather than trying to get them out of the way, these powerful demigods should be trained and accepted. His wish is that all children of gods are welcomed and treated with respect. It will be interesting if we have someone younger than 13 that shows up in the camp. I guess they're not unclaimed. It's like he will be claimed. I don't know if there will be some waiting stage. These are logistics that we'll have to see if it comes up later on, but I like Percy's sentiment, and I like this overall as his wish. It is a bit of a lengthy wish with a lot of different clarifications.
There was like a lot of like, and another thing.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of like genie rules, right? Where you have to be hyper specific, otherwise they won't do it.
Yeah, it is one wish with like, clauses or clarifications.
Yeah. It's also like in Taskmaster when they have the certain tasks and they're like, you cannot do this, you cannot move the thing, you cannot, like all the different things to make sure they're not cheating. So in response to it having lots of subcategories, Zeus snorts, "Is that all?" And then Poseidon warns Percy that he is asking for a lot, but Percy again just pushes through, saying that he's going to hold all of them to their oath. and he gets all sorts of side eye and sneers and nasty looks. And then Athena, of all people, speaks up and says that Percy is correct. She says that ignoring their children is unwise. Perfect, because she's the god of wisdom. It's unwise, and it was also a poor strategy in terms of building out an army. We should have more people on our team. And it also is what basically led to their destruction. She sees what Percy's getting at. The whole reason for this uprising is because we were mean to our kids. What if we were not mean to our kids? Could be good. So, very wise of her. She admits that she has had her doubts about Percy in the past, but glance at Annabeth and take a distinctly long pause. Maybe she was wrong about him.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Yeah. She motions for the gods to accept the wish. Zeus, who did set up this entire premise, scoffs at the notion of being told what to do by a child. I'm sorry, Zeus, you literally signed up for this and multiple times said you can have whatever you want. As long as we can do it, we'll do it. It's got to be reasonable, but whatever you say, if it's within our power, we can do it. Hey, can you do this? Yeah, I think that we should do this. You're going to listen to a kid? Yes, Zeus, that's what you set up for all of us.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this scene, 5-6 years from now or whenever we get to it in the Disney Plus show. But it's just seeing this kid standing in front of these, not literal titans, these gods.
Sure.
Standing in front of these gods, standing his ground because of, everything he went through up to chapter 19 of, this isn't a mere kid. This is the demigod that saved the world and saved all of their skins. And, yeah, I think Zeus knows that, and so that's why they ultimately come around.
To make things extra intense, are you imagining the gods are in their 10-foot form during this whole conversation? Or
of course.
Okay. Yeah, they never explicitly said it, but I was always imagining they're in big intimidation.
Oh, yeah, he's looking up at him.
So Zeus scoffs at this notion, but he does suppose that they probably should agree. Hermes calls for a vote, everyone raises their hand, and Percy says his classic catchphrase, thanks. I do want to get a counter going of how many times Percy says, thanks, because it is quite high. Percy turns, but before he can leave, Poseidon yells, "Honor guard!" And the Cyclopes rush forward and make 2 lines, forming an aisle for him to walk through. I was kind of hoping they were doing the thing that will happen in sports games sometimes, where they put their hands up and they make a little triangle for him to run under. I think that'd be really good.
Victory tunnel.
Yeah, good job, go. So they do that, and then Tyson says, just the perfect button on this chapter, "All hail Perseus Jackson, hero of Olympus, and my big brother." He's so sweet. He's so sweet. It's so good. And when he said heroes of Olympus, I was like, I've heard about those before.
We know who one of them is.
I know at least one of these plural heroes of Olympus, but we'll have to learn about the rest of them in the future. But that is the end of chapter 20, and that is the end of this part of this episode of The Newest Olympian. If you're listening at home, we'll have a quick little break, or listening, I guess, on the podcast. You don't have to be at home. If you're listening on the podcast version, we'll have another quick little break, and then we'll get back into the Q&A.
Hey, it's Mike. Just want to take a break here since this is a longer episode. First, I just want to say, if you're unable to support the show on Patreon, but you do want to help out the show in some way, talking about the show, whether you reach out to someone directly or you post about it on social media, those things really do help. Word of mouth is essential for podcasts. The more people that listen, the bigger this community gets. And I would just love to see this community continue to grow and grow. And either telling someone directly about it or posting about it on social media or leaving us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using, all those things really help. So if you want to help out in a non-monetary way, those are some examples of things you can do. Now, also, we are going to take a break here for some more ads, again, because this is a longer episode, and some of them will be read by me and others of them won't. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back for the Q&A, the final portion of this episode of The Newest Olympian. This episode of The Newest Olympian is brought to you by G Adventures. Now, after saving the world, Percy and Annabeth and Grover and Thalia and everybody might want to go on a trip. And if they were trying to find the perfect trip to go on, what could they use? They could use G Adventures. G Adventures offers 600 small group trips around around the world. And they have trips for different travel styles, whether you're looking for something more active or more relaxing. And these trips are focused on community tourism. So if you like to travel in a group or if you want to meet new folks while you travel, G Adventures could be the perfect fit for you. And now's the perfect time to check out G Adventures. They have a cyber sale going on through the end of November 2023. You can save up to 30% on a huge collection of adventure pack tours with travel by April 30th of 2024. And you can save 10% on select adventures departing between May 1st and June 30th of 2024. The link for that sale is gadventures.com/cyber-sale. Again, that is G, like the letter G, adventures.com/cyber-sale. And you can save up to 30% on adventures before April 30th and 10% on trips between May 1st and June 30th. So check that out if you are looking to take a celebratory trip after saving the world today.
So, a lot of fun questions were sent in, and now let's get to those questions. The first one is from Caitlin. Caitlin says, "Hey Mike, as you are in Milwaukee, I think it's only right to talk about Milwaukee's Greek god himself, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Who do you think would be Giannis's godly parent?" I didn't even realize. I knew Giannis was Greek, and then I was like, oh, right, Greek, Percy Jackson. Yeah, obviously.
Welcome to the show, Mike Schubert.
Whoop. Now, who are you thinking is his godly parent? He's very athletic. He is very jovial. He is very thoughtful. I feel like Athena could be his parent. He is very wise, and he's good at basketball, which does still feel like she's still good at war, not necessarily in the Ares way, but more in the, planning for battle stuff. But still, battle him makes sense. But he is very thoughtful and gave very thoughtful answers and stuff. The Bucks, as some of you are aware, had an unfortunate early termination to the season where they did not win the NBA championship. And he gave really insightful answers when they asked him, do you think this is a failure? And he was like, no, there's no just hard and fast, there's things that we can grow upon. He gave a really, really good answer. If you want a motivational thing, just search Giannis Antetokounmpo, no such thing as failure. And it's just a good motivator of I can do this. I will be okay. I will get back up. I get knocked down, but I get back up again. So that would be my thought.
If we're okay with a minor god, can I suggest the Greek goddess of victory, Nike?
Ah!
2 on the nose?
Extra bonus. He is sponsored by Nike, and he has a custom line of signature shoes with Nike, and you probably didn't even know that.
Absolutely not.
Nailed it. Caitlin continues, I hope you're enjoying your time in Cream City. If you haven't already, eat some cheese curds, drink some beer, and go get frozen custard from Kops or Leon's. Okay, all right. What's better, Kops or Leon's? Ooh, I heard slightly more Leon's, but enough Kops where I'll pick whichever one is closer to us. Okay, this next question is from Henry. The subject line is on nepotism. Question for the Milwaukee Live Show. Michael Hollis, what is your most embarrassing Mike college story? Should have seen this one coming.
Yes, I should have had an answer for this since we brought it up an hour ago. The one thing that comes to mind is just the story that Mike and I joke about all the time, which is that in our senior year, we were in a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream,
which you can watch on YouTube,
that a lot of people watch in their English classes, which
we're
is
really
bizarre.
big amongst high schoolers who are struggling to comprehend Shakespeare via book, but then see it acted out and go, oh, I get it, because I can hear the line delivery.
So Mike managed the amazing feat that I had never heard of, which was getting a B in a theater class.
I got a B+, how dare you?
Which I did not think was possible to get less than an A.
Yeah. I do believe when we were sitting in our dorm room and we were going over our grades and stuff, I mentioned that, and I think you said, how is that even possible? It's just an attendance-based course, but unfortunately, senior design, the thing I need to do for my major, ended at the same time as theater rehearsals, and we would always do the first 30 minutes of theater rehearsals doing sun salutations and vocal warm-ups and all this yoga shenanigans. And it was not important, and my senior design was more important, so I would just show up late. And also most of the rehearsals I didn't really need to be there. I was Tom Snout / The Wall, I'm only in particular scenes. So
And how's all that engineering going for you now, Mike?
Well, what I will say is I like where I ended up, and it's all part of the process. Butterfly effect. Who knows what could have happened if I got an A in theater and I didn't mark the classes pass-fail so that it wouldn't bring down my GPA. Who's to say what could have been? Maybe some theater production would have been oh, he got an A in theater. Let's sign him. And then maybe I wouldn't be where we are. Whoa.
I do respect your lack of student loans.
I paid them off, and here we are. The student loans was fun. I remember when I had them, they'd like want to put you on the payment plan. They're like, here's the payment plan. Like, you can do it over a 10-year period. And I was like, can I do it in 3? They were like, that would cost a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, what else am I going to spend the money on? And they were like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, can you quick tell me how much I'll save in interest? And they were like, $50,000. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, obviously, the person collecting interest from you is like, are you sure that you don't want to pay this over the course of 10 years? Dweebs. Cancel student debt. It's stupid. Seriously. Do something, Joe. Come on, man. Laura has our next question. Subject line, it's my daughter's 6th birthday, and I'm here for the podcast instead. She's 6. She'll forget.
She's not 13 yet. That's fine.
Right. Laura says, hey, Shoobs, thanks for coming back to Milwaukee for TNO. 2 questions. Because of your amazing peanut butter references, if you could only eat one kind of peanut butter for the rest of your life, what would it be? It would be Trader Joe's Natural Unsalted. It's the best. It's perfect. Get it. Not very expensive. Really good. Do you have a favorite peanut butter?
No.
That's okay.
I like them all.
I am quite particular. But yeah, the unsalted Trader Joe's, it's top notch. They're not paying me to say this. Unless you're listening to Trader Joe's, hit me up. Number 2. My daughter really wanted to come, but mom's night out, minivan squad. So I said she could ask a question. So for Amelia, age 11, Slytherin, not racist. Glad you clarified, even though this isn't a Potterless show. If you could read any or all of the first 5 books from a different character's perspective, which books and which characters, with parentheses over the S's, would it be? I feel like if I was giving a true answer of like curiosity, I think Thalia would be really interesting just because she spends a lot of time not doing the stuff that already happens. So I feel like that would be interesting just to see like what's it like to be a hunter and what was going on and what was her perspective of Percy being really awkward at the school dance. I think that would be very fun because like you could pick Annabeth, but then it's just kind of like, you know, like the Twilight book where it's like, it's the same thing, but it's Edward now, but now the book's twice as long. But I think like a less serious answer, the books from Tyson's perspective would just be such a fun beach read. Like him just being happy at everything all the time would be great.
Yes, I read Tyson all day. The cheat answer would be, these are Percy's books, and it would be weird that somebody else is telling his story, except for, I think, Nico probably has like the most going on, like an entire hero's journey, like quest stuff that he's doing behind the scenes. You know,
I'm unsurprised that you picked the answer with the most angst and emotion.
I'm fine, I promise.
So this one is from Olivia and Molly by association. Hey, Mike, I could ask you a variety of questions tonight, but it's most important to me that I share this fact instead. Did you know that the font that the PGO books is printed in is called Centaur? No wonder Chiron has such control of the plot. I did not know that. That is super fun. And I would love, this is a really top contender for Ask Uncle Rick if I ever do get him on the pod, because I would just ask him like, how hard did you fist bump when you saw that one of the like pretty generic looking Georgia Times New Roman-y fonts was called Centaur? Because that's just perfect. Like you got to scroll and you're like, please don't be wingdings. Please don't be wingdings. Centaur, hey! Like it's actually a font where like all of the letters have like horse bottoms and letter tops. Yeah. So I think he was probably really stoked about it. It's a very fun fact. Thank you for sharing. This next one is from Josie and also their brother Jack. Hi, Mike and Mike. Welcome back to MKE, which is almost Mike. You read my question about squeaky cheese curds at the previous Milwaukee live show and had sadly not tried them yet. A year and some change later, have you now tried our cheese curds? And were they, with a tildes on each side, squeaky? I have had squeaky cheese curds, but not from Milwaukee. So I turn it to you. Where should we go tomorrow for squeaky cheese curds? Black Shadow Creamery? Any other?
Black Shadow.
Say,
Clock,
like Tic Tac. Not surprised, since all of your buildings do have clock towers on them. No one's ever late in Milwaukee, I guess. So Clock Tower Creamery. Any other top contenders?
Any grocery store.
Really? What section of the grocery store are cheese curds in? Okay, so they're cold? Oh.
With the cheese, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I expected them to be I don't know why in my brain I was
novelty
like,
aisle?
nah, I don't know. I thought there'd be like, it's like an appetizer. I was thinking like, oh, they're like mozzarella sticks or poutine or something like that. But no, that makes sense. Okay, cool. They're Hellsworth? Halsworth. E-L-E-L-L, Ellsworth. Cool. Okay. Thank you. This is the prime example of why I usually, and you guys were all great, so I didn't have to do this, like tell people from the crowd, please don't say things because I cannot hear you. Notice how many times I'm asking people to say the word clock. Okay. We will get some Ellsworth cheese curds in a grocery store, or we will go to Clock Tower Creamery. Clock Shadow Creamery. There we go. All right.
We shall see this done.
We will make it happen. Okay, so this question is from Kelsey, Cassie, and Erica. Hi, Mike. So excited that you're in Milwaukee. We highly recommend La Masa Empanada Bar and Purple Door for dessert. Good to know. My friends and I love TNO and Potterless. Part of what makes these shows so fun is that longtime fans of the books get to listen to you experience them for the first time, with all the plot reveals and awe moments and jokes being new to you. So our question is, if you could erase a book, show, or movie from your brain so that you could experience it for the first time again, what would it be? So do you have a book, TV show, movie, any sort of thing that you would want to experience for the first time again? For me,
go first.
Yeah, you can think about it. For me, I think just because of the singular moment, one of my favorite movies is Parasite, and I saw it soon after I had gone full-time with podcasting, so I got to go to like a Wednesday 11 a.m. showing of it, and there was like nobody in the theater. And spoiler alert, in case you don't want to know what happens in Parasite, but the point when they show where the secret door is, I had also avoided like anything about it because I just heard it was good and I was just like, not going to watch any trailers. I'm just going to watch it. When they have the secret door, I was like kind of like leaning back in my chair like this. I, no joke, literally went to the edge of my seat, like scooted forward to where my butt was on the literal edge of my seat because anything could have happened. It could have been a musical for the rest of the movie and I would have been like, yup, that's what happens. Like, truly just the feeling of, I have no idea what's about to happen. No one else is in this theater. It's just me and the great unknown. I think I would love to just like rekindle that moment because it was just like the most distinct in-theater memory I can ever recall.
I'm going to go in the opposite direction with this because like I feel like some of the best movie-going or entertainment experiences I've had is like kind of a fluke that I happen to love something more than everyone else.
Okay.
Maybe just like the way I was feeling that day or, you know, just the way that I went into it or something occurred to me which, you know, changed how I, you know, so I wouldn't want to like ruin those and accidentally hate it. So when I watched the movie Up, I hated it.
Really?
And I don't remember why. So I would love to be like, maybe this movie's actually pretty good because everyone else seems to love it.
Have you not watched it since?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, maybe we'll watch Up tonight in our hotel in an undisclosed location. Maybe. That'd be fun. Cool. Okay. No, I like that. I think that's a really good answer because maybe you'll get like a second chance at it. I did actually do that with WALL-E. The first time I watched WALL-E, watched it with a girl I was dating at the time and things were not going well. So I did not enjoy the movie-going experience. And for a while I was like, WALL-E's not good. And then I watched it, tears everywhere. And I was like, why did I hate this movie? It's because I was 14 and a doofus. So this next question is from Hannah and Nathan. And I was confused by the subject line until I read the signature at the end because it says from the land of corn. And I was like, that's not Milwaukee.
That could be like 5 states.
They are from Iowa. They say, hello. Iowa people in the mix. They say, hello, Mike and Michael. Loving the show so far and hope you are having a good time in the Midwest. My question is, if you were made a minor god, what would you want to be the minor god of, but what random thing would probably actually be assigned to you? So you get to be the minor god of something very specific, but then accidentally something random or unplanned becomes something that gets assigned to you by association. What sort of minor god are you thinking?
You go first.
I think I could be like the minor god of talking very quickly because I do that already and then could also maybe expand into like, you know, I've done hip hop, improvised rap stuff and all that too. So that could kind of like be in the mix. But if there was something that I like accidentally got assigned to me, maybe I would accidentally be the god of those people that read disclaimers at the end of advertisements. Like when there's car dealerships or like you get gambling ads on a sports podcast and they're like, call 1-888. Oh my God, don't gamble in Alabama. Call 1-800. You really shouldn't do this in Iowa.
Should we do it for each other? Because I can't think of one for me.
Okay.
Yeah, what would you think that I would end
For
up
you?
being?
Ooh.
The god of...
Let me think.
This is a bad idea.
No. You would be... No, what I think you would be the god of is like if you could be the minor god of keeping it real, because one of my most cherished memories, I don't know if I said this when you were on the pod before, but there was a time when at Rice, I had run for class president of like our dorm building. So Rice has a residential college system, which is kind of like a Greek life where everyone gets in, kind of like Harry Potter houses. You get sorted into one or whatever. And then each one like has its own like little government. And I had done like, I was the vice president at one point. I'd done some other stuff and then I ran for president. And then I lost and I was crushed because I like thought that had a good shot to win. And then I remember like talking with you about it afterwards. And I was just like, I don't know, like I thought I was more well-liked, but maybe I'm not. And then we just kind of like had a pretty deep talk about just like what it was like what my perception of myself, what people thought of me. And then it did end on a funny note where you were like, well, what do you think people think of you? And I was like, I bet that like 75% of people are like, yeah, Mike Schubert seems like a good guy. And then 25% of people are like, it's all an act and he's a piece of crap. And you were like, meh, checks out. It was good. And another time you told me there was a time where you said it was a different situation, but you told me that saying sorry is not the same as apologizing, and that has stuck with me forever. Like I think about that one a lot. So I would say you'd be the minor god of keeping it real.
Thank you. I'm going to be less heartfelt and say that you'd be the minor god of cool hair.
I will take it.
There was a time when you were definitely immortal in that respect.
Yeah.
And
had the bowl cut, had the mushroom cloud guile from Street Fighter hair in college. Yeah, I had some tough ones.
definite godly glow up in that respect.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, let's keep the questions rolling. This one is from Aaron B. Hey, Mike, my mom and I are huge fans of the podcast, and I'm very fortunate to be here live tonight. Unfortunately, Mom couldn't make it, but she's here in spirit. Yes, you are, Mom. I have a question and a recommendation. My question is this. If Nico, Percy, Annabeth, Grover, Clarice, and Tyson all gathered around the table to play Risk, who would have the biggest chance of winning before it devolves into pure chaos? Are you a big Risk guy at all?
I've played it.
I have played it. I don't find it fun, so I usually just do things that I find funny that usually people get annoyed with. My two strategies are just get Australia and whatever like connects to Australia and put all the troops in there and be like, Australia's mine and no one can have it. Or I just put all my troops in Kamchatka because it's fun to say.
I don't remember the list of names, but I'm going to say Tyson.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's going to devolve into chaos real quick.
Yeah.
And he would be the funniest to just like accidentally win really quick.
Oh, I do think he has a good chance of not making anyone mad. And I feel like Risk is ripe for people making moves just because they're mad about it.
Yeah,
not
they'd
necessarily
underestimate him.
strategy.
He's just like, oh, I guess I won.
Yeah, I think it would come down between Annabeth and Tyson, and maybe Annabeth does the thing where she's so worried about the other people that she kind of pays no attention to Tyson. Like if you're playing Catan and then all of a sudden you're like, where'd you get all those victory points from? Yeah. Or like, I didn't know you had the largest army, stuff like that. So I could see Tyson sneaking away. Now here's the recommendation. My recommendation while you're here in Milwaukee is twofold: the Art Museum and the Public Market on Water Street. Great art, great food, the entire Milwaukee experience. Hope you enjoy your stay and safe travels to your next destination. Cool. Noted. Lots of things on our potential list. Okay, this one is from Sebastian. Subject line is, woo, Milwaukee. Woo. Hey, Mike, I drove almost 4 hours by myself to see you. Dedication, Sebastian. I drove almost 4 hours by myself to see you, and I just got my license like 4 months ago. And also, this is the furthest I've ever driven by myself. Dedication, Sebastian. Safe travels home. Anyways, my question is, out of all the minor characters in the books, who's your favorite? You can't count Nico, Thalia, or Clarice because they're not really minor. I mean more like the Stolls are their characters who are mentioned a lot, but never got any real character growth. feel like the easy choice is Beckendorf, so I kind of want to pick someone else because he is like the greatest of like that tier.
Yeah, I'd
of
say he's
people.
also not minor.
Yeah, he kind of rose above.
He came in later, but yeah, once he was a character, he was a
Yeah.
main character.
A minor character. I mean, I do really love Blackjack a lot. I really have a soft spot for Blackjack, so I feel like that would be my pick. Do you have a pick?
Maybe Mrs. O'Leary.
Oh,
It's just
Mrs.
like
O'Leary's
always
good.
fun when she jumps in.
Yeah, and you're a big dog person, right?
Yeah, I got a pretty big dog.
You want to talk about your dog?
He's cool. He's a big black, fluffy dog.
Like Mrs. O'Leary.
Presumably. Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Sarah and Nicole. The subject line is Milwaukee, and then in parentheses, open for fun beer fact. And I'm a nerd, so I opened it. Hi, Meg and Mike. One question for the Q&A. Who is your favorite side character in Hades, the video game? So Hades, the video game, favorite side character. I really do love Skelly a lot. Skelly is really fun. Are you sensing a theme? I like the comedic side characters that are comic relief. Skelly, for anyone who doesn't play the game, is a skeleton body bag for all intents and purposes. When you're picking what weapon you want to fight with, he's there, and he's just like in your little training room, and in this voice where he's like, come on, boyo, let's fight, let's do it. And then you just like literally kill him, and then a couple seconds go by, and he springs back to life, and he's like, let me at him. He's great. He's so fun. I like Skelly a lot.
If we were going with typecasted answers, I'd have to say Thanatos,
Oh, yeah.
the queer angsty one of that game. But what actually came to mind first was Persephone.
Oh, Persephone is
Spoiler alert for Hades, a video game. Like when she popped up in the game, it just kind of like changed the way the game felt.
Truly.
Yeah,
Truly.
and I really liked the energy she brought.
Yeah. Hades, the video game, does a phenomenal job of making a game where you literally do the same thing hundreds of times feel different. It's fantastic. And you're right. The Persephone introduction is a big, big changer. There is a follow-up question. If you had to put characters from Percy Jackson into a band, lead singer, drummer, bassist, etc., who would you include and what part would they play? So we're putting people in a band. Grover, obviously, on the reed pipes, or at least some sort of woodwind or blow into instrument. Like, if he's not doing that, he could do a flute or a trumpet or a saxophone or something like that, or a clarinet. Kelly's going to be listening. Nico feels like a bassist to me. He just like feels like he's got that energy. Maybe I'm just imagining Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy in the peak Fall Out Boy with the hair.
Maybe like Clarice on drums. Seems like she's
Ooh.
got like a lot of violence to work out.
Lead singer, Percy feels just like the obvious choice because of main character, but I don't feel like he's the singing type. Does anyone ever sing in these? I don't really know.
I mean, we don't really know that many Apollo campers.
That's true. That's true. Michael, he's dead. Can't pick him. But let's see. I feel Thalia electric guitar makes sense, right?
Ooh, yeah.
That just feels right in the wheelhouse of her. And then Annabeth feels like keyboard because that's piano
more
is a
methodical.
just a very like thoughtful, complex, and she probably is like classically trained, but then can also get the chord out.
And then also Percy, I guess, on some.
Yeah, Percy. I don't know. Maybe you can play like the triangle or something. Or Tyson's playing the cowbell for sure. Having a great time with his stick. Just blah, blah, blah. I will say like 50% of these emails tell me to drink Spotted Cow, which I did have at the show last year, right? That was the beer of the someone? Yeah, it's good stuff. We'll have to get some Spotted Cow. It was fun when we did the show last year, and I think the thing was just like, can I buy you a Spotted Cow? I think was the question. And I was like, that could be anything. That could be a dessert because of like dairy. That could be something with ground beef in it. Like that could be like a candy, like the black and white candy of sorts. Like they could have been anything. And then someone's like, it's a beer. And I was like, I should have guessed that. I'm in Milwaukee. Okay, this one is from Haley. Subject line is, answer this question for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm a simple boy. I like basketball. Hey, Mike, I respect your shoe game. It's been well established that boat shoes perfectly embody the villainy of Luke/Kronos. What Giannis Antetokounmpo basketball shoes best represent Percy, the Freaks or the Immortalities? Also, what shoes do you think personify some other characters in the series? Really enjoy your Giannis love on TNO and Horse. Go Bucks. So, Giannis has two lines of shoes.
Don't look at me.
He's got two lines of shoes. The Freaks, which are the first line of shoe that he did, they are more expensive and they are cool because the Nike logo is upside down and the swoosh like goes into the heel. The Immortalities are the ones that are a little less expensive. I think the Immortalities work for Percy because he's kind of more of an everyman, so having the lower price point shoe makes sense. And then also he did do the whole not immortal, but like invincible thing, so that feels like pretty spot on there. As far as shoes for the other folks in there, man, I mean,
some like Birkenstocks for Grover.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, that's very naturey. I feel like Thalia wants just some like Chuck Taylors, like very like punk rock. No, Vans. Just kidding. Checkered Vans for Thalia. She only shops at Hot Topic, so that's the shoe for her. Annabeth, I feel like would just be like a nice, like sturdy shoe with like, like good like heel support and stuff. Maybe just like a nice like Nike or Adidas like athletic shoe. And then I feel like that's Tyson. Oh, Tyson would have either light up shoes or from the mid 2000s when they had those shoes where you would like step and they would spin like they had spinning rims in them. Or maybe he has a pair of Heelys and he Heelys around. That feels pretty good. I think that's pretty solid. Okay, cool. Tyson for Heelys. Okay, perfect. This is a perfect ending to it. I love doing stuff like this. Thank you, Caitlin and Allie, for sending this in. This is how we'll close out the show. 2-part question. Okay, let's do number 2 because it's not as silly and goofy. If you were in the demigod situation during this chapter, what unpaid internship would the gods give you? You get an unpaid internship that is a great opportunity from the gods. What job do you get stuck with? I feel like they would probably just like make me make a podcast for them and like not realize they're like, you just record and hit upload, right? Like they would make me like make a show like sharing the news and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure be an intern for Hermes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you?
I don't know. Maybe just like organizing something really, like alphabetizing something could be really calming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not the worst gig. Okay, here's how we're going to close it out. Try to pronounce these Wisconsin cities. So I'll put it over here so that you can see as well. This first one, whoo, baby. Let me just preface this. If any of these are from indigenous Native American tribes, I apologize to all of your people. This is just me not knowing how to put together these things. Okay, this first one is spelled Ashwaubenon. I'm going to just go Ashwaubenon. Okay?
Yeah, that's what I think.
How would you say that one? Okay, pretty good, pretty close. This next one, it can't be. It is spelled EAU space CLAIRE.
Eau Claire?
Is it just Eau Claire? Okay. I was like, it seems too easy. This next one, KAUKANA. Kaukauna?
Kaukauna?
Kaukauna. Okay, all right. Feels like the AU should be after the second K then. That feels like it should be spelled KAKAUNA.
I think you added that U. I don't think they said that.
I said like Kaukauna, but they said like Kakana, right? Yeah.
Okay.
See, I think it's spelled incorrectly. Unless it's an important name of heritage, then it's correct and I'm wrong. Wow. OCONOMOWC. Economock? Okay. I feel like I was primed to get that one right because one of my good friends is Adam Amawala, whose last name is not hard to say. People just see the letters and panic.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what happened. There's just too many syllables that I couldn't track.
Okay, WAUSAU. Wausau? Okay, I heard it was more like Wausau? Wausau? Okay. Wausau? Okay, cool. WEYAUWEGA.
Weoega?
Weoega? People don't know what this town is. Oh, Wyoega. Oh, okay. Wyoega. Interesting. Wyoega. Even more interesting. And the last one, WAUKESHA. Well, I know the last part because I did go to college in the mid-2010s. Is it just Waukesha? Waukesha? Oh man, Waukesha would have been too cool. You guys would have had a great time in the early 2010s. Well, that has been Pronounced Milwaukee City's time with Mike and Michael. And that has been this episode of The New Olympian. Thank you all so much for coming out to the show. Really appreciate it. Give it up to Michael for being an incredible guest for this show.
You're too kind.
And thank you so much to everyone here at Shank Hall, one of my favorite named venues that I've ever performed at. Everyone running the show, sound and lighting and hospitality and all of that has been super cool. Even the digital image on the outside where it's got the Percy Jackson thing, and that's rad as hell to walk up and see that. So we were put that together, super cool. So shout out to everyone at Shank Hall for making the show a reality. And of course, also got to give a big shout out to Anna who helped out at the merch table. Couldn't have done it without her as well. So, thank you all so much for coming out. I really do appreciate it. We gotta get out of here, head back to our hotel in undisclosed location, and clean up this mess that I have made with pretend dollar bills on stage. But
Do you do that at every show?
I do at the shows where I have enough space in my luggage to fit them. And when we were going to Chicago, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to fit them. And Kelly, as we had already called the car to the airport, Kelly was like, I had a little bit of room in my backpack, and I ran into my closet to grab the money gun because I was like, if we sell enough merch at the Chicago show, I'll have enough room in my suitcase. And we did. So yes, I did bring the money guns. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming out to the show. I really do appreciate it. And until I come back again, because now it's just becoming an annual tradition at this point, until we come back in a post-me eating squeaky cheese curds world, until then... Thanks so much for coming out, everybody!
Hey there! Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The New Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you want to be a part of the show's community, you can find us on social media. We're at New Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There's also a subreddit, reddit.com/r/The New Olympian. And then there's also the Discord that you get access to by joining any tier of the Patreon over at thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. If you want to get some TNO merch, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/merch. And if you want to support the show, and as a thank you, get access to a whole bunch of bonus content, you can do that at thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. Speaking of that Patreon, let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, the Dan Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Ellie Hoskov-Chova, Veronica Bartova, Haley Hastings, Robin Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Giselle Salvador, Peter Johnson the Twin, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Casey Williams, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayre, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Wise Girl, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Caden Max, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mary Kelly, Audra, Mrs. O'Leary, Rodith Kalna, Milo Kim, Harlan Christ, Cece Reeds 23, Sandkoff, Julia Kendall, Emil Oskar Thomason, Liz Cardigan, Sarah Neal, Ricky, John Drielsma, Rayla Matthews, Riley Draken, Lunica Dune, Sky Mallory, Elizabeth Obermiller, Aidan Parziani, Biggest Tyson Fan, Hunter Landstrom, Captain Jack Rackham, Sky Captain and the Princess, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction Coming Up, Ethan Robinson, Ginger Spursboy, Joshua Aid, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Lux, Neil, Will Buchanan, and Olivia Krenicki. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, simply talking about the show is so helpful. Word of mouth is huge. So you can tell someone that you know who loves Percy Jackson about the podcast, or you can talk to someone who's looking for an excuse to finally get into the Percy Jackson books about it, or someone who's maybe getting hyped for the TV show that's coming up and they want to understand what's going on. Or you could post about the show on social media, or you could leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help. I'm very appreciative to everyone who has already done so and to anyone who will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be covering chapters 21 and 22, again with Michael Hollis, but this time live in Minneapolis, St. Paul. But until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So here in the Shubio, I have some of the things that I took on tour recently at our Philly and New York shows in the studio that I need to put away. One of the things I need to put away is the power cable for my recording device that I use. So I was just going to wrap up the cable from the power cord near the microphone, and that will be the noise for this ASMR Mike segment. I realized that was not necessarily the noisiest, so now I'll just kind of like move the cable around against the plastic and stuff. And now I will rub the charger on the microphone. Thank you so much for listening.